Hello and welcome to In Conversation with CCW Europe. My name is Kira Martin, Event Director with CCW Europe, and I'm joined here today with Mohamed Attia, Global Head of Customer Operations with the British Council. So, welcome. Thank you for joining us today, Mohamed. You have joined us here in Manchester all the way from Cairo in Egypt. So really, we should be starting this podcast with Ahlan, salam alaikum. How are you?
Alaikum salam. So thanks Kira for inviting me in, and it's really nice to be in Manchester. And I think it's one of my favorite cities, which I'm traveling to recently a lot now.
Glad to hear it. So can you start by telling our listeners a little bit about you, what you do, what your day-to-day work looks like?
Okay, simply my day-to-day work. It's for me, it's broken down to two things. One is actually being on a flight regularly.
Sounds about right.
So I'm competing versus flight attendants and how much they fly compared to how much I fly. The other bit is actually working with my teams, which are the operational teams in the British Council. They exist across multiple countries, regions. They're extremely diverse, multiple languages, multiple behaviors, everything. Managing our operations, looking to our numbers, whether they're sales number or call center service levels, thinking of how we can move the operation forward, how we look into our strategies, what quick wins can we do. And I think 3 years ago, that started to be shifting a bit, not shifting, but adding more to it. It's what's happening around us, starting to COVID, to I won't say political, but it's impacting people. So situations on the ground within countries like Sudan, Ukraine. So how are we going to run those operations? How we can ensure the security of those teams on the ground? And that definitely has been picked up with the organization leadership team, but still there is a bit of accountability on myself and my team when we look into our staff members and customer service and sales teams on the ground.
Absolutely. So we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Definitely.
If you wouldn't mind, firstly, I would love for you to explain a little bit about the British Council and what you do, because I think all of our listeners will be, they'll be aware of the brand and what you do. But I must admit, until I got to know you and your team, I wasn't aware of the complete breadth and depth of the work that you do. So can you talk us through a little bit about what the British Council does?
Okay, that's a nice question, because even 7 years ago when I joined, I've been having the same question.
Yep.
I think the main thing, not the main, because we've got mainstreams, but I think British Council, you can easily refer to exams activities, which is IGCSE, our correlation with Cambridge and Pearson in delivering exams for school students. That's one bit. Another bit, which is, I would say the biggest part, is the IELTS exam, which we say it's life-changing exams, because lots of people are taking it to immigrate or to study abroad. So we're delivering IELTS exams. Also, we've got the teaching business, which teaching English across the world. Those are two bits. And there's another bit into it, which is culture, relation, and engagement, which we're mostly doing it in the regions and outside of the UK, and helping sometimes education sectors in the countries, or supporting females and multiple other activities.
Great.
So there's a bit of a grant side, and there's another bit which is the teaching and exam side, which generates the income.
Okay. Fantastic. Makes sense. So we are here to talk today a little bit about global customer service operations, managing teams across the globe, something that a lot of our listeners will have various different challenges with. And I think a good place to start would be to talk a little bit about cultural differences. I would assume that in a business of your scale, you would want to keep some sort of central control and governance, whilst at the same time making sure that your localized teams have the autonomy and the power to be able to make localized decisions. So how do you get the right balance there?
It's really hard to get that balance. I would say, from how I see it, it's impossible. And I would start, my view is there's never, ever one thing fits all.
Right.
So you need to understand, you need to decide first, what is the level of freedom you need to give to teams, and what's the bit you would like to centralize and standardize. I think we've tried to centralize multiple times, but did it work as you expect? Not always.
Right.
That's why I'm saying, starting off, nothing fits all. I think what we're trying to do mostly is 80-20, centralize as much as possible of 80% and give the local teams the opportunity to do whatever they want in alignment to what we need to reach.
Yeah.
How we approach it, and I think we're not yet into the 80-20 from customer service operations, but I think the development of it is actually listening to the teams on the ground. So instead of doing it top down, telling them this is what you need to standardize, it's more like listening to them and picking the quick wins that you can standardize. Whether that's going to help you to ease up the process, centralization when it's possible. And I think we've managed to centralize a couple of operations in the Middle East, North Africa, and in Europe, in a couple of countries. So pick up your quick wins quickly. Try to focus on what would bring benefits. Again, there are lots of things you can find like admin stuff. Centralize. It's easy. And your teams on the ground will say, okay, take the headache away. So that's pretty quick win. So simply is, as I said, understanding what the local teams need, looking for, collaborate together, pick up those quick wins which you can quickly centralize or quickly put a standard process in when there's an availability. Also, there's another aspect is which you need to relate to your teams is what your customers are saying. So do you have the same problem and the customers are flagging it everywhere?
Yeah.
If it's the same, it's easy to centralize. You can easily bring standardization in. But sometimes it's different. Each country has its own problem. Again, what's the priority for the country, for the region, and for the globe? And how can you pick this up? So actions is based on your teams and what your customers are saying.
It's good advice. And given the differences in the way that your different offices will operate, the decisions that they'll make, I would assume that there is varying levels of performance across different regions and different offices. So what metrics do you use to create that benchmark so that you can measure, monitor, compare the performances of your various offices?
That's a hard question. Again, within our operation, there are multiple things being done. So we've got contact centers and we've got sales and we've got customer service. So I've got two types of people on the front of house. One's doing sales, one's doing front of house or customer service. And we've got the call center. Some of the teams are doing sales and some of the teams are doing customer service. The matrix as well would differ. So we do have our global KPIs and matrix. And now where we try to standardize bits and pieces in it. So when you look into call centers, which are doing customer service, inbound calls, this is pretty straightforward. Everyone works towards the same KPI. No challenge. But the challenge comes into how you're going to bring everyone to hit the KPI. So that's the first challenge for contact centers. When you look into the salespeople, it's really hard to compare towards one standard, for example, sales target, because every country has a different sales target.
Right.
Every sales agent has a different sales target according to circumstances in the country, the target that is needed across. So usually how I'm looking at it now, it's towards measuring percentage generated.
Right.
Because you can easily compare a percentage, but it's hard to compare, how to say it, an income number. So I can easily say X country is 20% away from target, whether it's a £1 million or £100. But I cannot say that the country had achieved £1 million, the other country had achieved £500,000. Can I compare them? No, because at this point I need to understand, okay, what is the level that actually is needed in this and what is needed there? But the percentage is easy. And part of those assignments of income, it goes from multiple stakeholders. So there's the business, there's us. So you're never going to be easy to have one number or one figure to do it.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, there are multiple things of comparison. There's country, staff member in country, country to country, country to region, and region to region. And this is the bit where it was the agreement between myself and my team that works in the regional leads, where we started to say, yes, if we want to compare, okay, this KPI could be comparable, which, as I said, the call center service level, abandoned rates, service levels, income, we need to look at it from that aspect. And also we try to differentiate between KPIs and measurements,
right,
and operational metrics. So I can compare the income, but I cannot compare, for example, the convergence across the sales funnel.
Mm-hmm.
But the regional lead can compare the convergence in the sales funnel between two similar countries. So it's a bit complex, but I think the outcome is we can compare if it's a figure that is easily comparable. So percentages, we can compare service level, we can compare productivity.
Mm-hmm.
But if you need to manage the operation, there's much of other layers down, which at some point they're not comparable.
Makes sense. Incredibly complex then. So I would imagine that when you do find regions or offices or even individuals that are performing particularly well, in the spirit of cross-pollination of ideas and innovation, you would want to be able to ensure that knowledge that's been accumulated can be shared and leveraged elsewhere in other parts of the globe. A lot of our listeners will be having troubles with in large global organizations very much being in silos and that information not being shared across offices. Can you share any advice on how you're managing to do that at the moment?
Okay, that bit requires a more of our accountability. So are we doing it the best? No. But we're trying as much as we do.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment, what's happening with us is the ideas is coming from countries through the regional leads. So we do have regular meetings, all regional leads together with myself. We try to pick up those ideas regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to understand the benefits, the measurement, what was measured, what did it actually generate. And then we start communicating. That's a stage one, just raising awareness.
Yeah.
It's no implementation, nothing. And then we come up regularly into quarterly meetings. On those meetings, actually, we do have a better picture to what has been achieved. And then within those meetings, we discuss, myself and the regional leads, do we see benefit to take it somewhere else? And this is the accountability part starts. So at this point, it's not becoming just, it's nice to have,
Mm-hmm.
but we agree, we sign this off. So it's a deliverable now. So the regional lead is accountable, I'm accountable, there's a timeline to start seeing the benefit of it. And again, we're not saying we're rolling it out or expanding the knowledge, we're deploying. So I do remember we've got one activity that has been showing a huge success in terms of sales. This activity, we started rolling it out or increasing awareness about it 3 years ago.
Right.
And we're still rolling it out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not there everywhere. But are we succeeding? Yes. Now we reach the position that we're not telling the regional lead, you're accountable, go deliver it. Now country teams are asking us, can you please come and deploy this here?
Right.
We want to trial it. We see a benefit. And it's all because we're just the more countries we're adding, we're spreading the word. This is another success. And part of the success of it is influence. So we did something, we communicate to the business. So actually we're selling it as well to our stakeholders. So the stakeholders start spreading the word through their functions. So at the end is the position we are now. It's coming up from the countries because the stakeholder in the country heard of it, saw the report, saw the benefit. Can I try it? So he talks to his sales and customer service manager. Can we adopt this? So it comes back through the function that we need it. So I think the whole thing starts just with an accountability, spreading the word nicely, being clear of what benefits have you delivered. Because there are lots of ideas that it's there. And I think most of the customer service and sales people, they're up to ideas. But which idea worth taking it forward and picking the right region, the right country, so you can continue the success? Because maybe a country wants it, but the level of business there, it's low. So you're not going to see that benefit on spot. So that's going to slow you back. So can you pick the right countries, the right location, and then start spreading the story and communicating to your teams across and your stakeholders?
Storytelling is powerful. We know this about customer service, right? Another thing that our listeners will definitely be having trouble with if they're in a large global business is consistency of customer service across the globe. I don't think anyone has one golden answer, but what is your advice for our listeners on ensuring that you've got the same level and consistency of service quality across all of your regions?
I see this, and depends on the level of investment you're going to put in the teams.
Right.
So, for example, for us at the moment, we are investing in our teams in terms of feedback and coaching. We're trying to send the same message around how do you do coaching, how you deliver feedback, and how you listen back to your teams, how you receive the feedback from your team, and how you bring it up to the management. I think once you have this ongoing loop, everything's going to be standardized. We've got our quality program, which is ensuring that all the information is being said worldwide is the same. We're assessing everyone in the same way in quality. We look into specific pillars when we're doing the quality audits. We're doing calibration within regions, within global. We do have a global team of quality working with us. But when we started that, it wasn't the easiest way, because teams took it as if it's not helping them, but it's picking on their mistakes. So you missed the idea of standardizing. And sometimes the managers who are doing the quality, they've looked at it in terms of, okay, I need to put a good quality score to show my team is good compared to the global. So it didn't bring the best and the benefit of it. So we started shortening down the quality audits, or the sections we need to audit. And we said, okay, we're going to deploy a big program around coaching and feedback. Because if that's been done, this is what to say. Actually, this is quality. If you're able to coach your team how to develop, if you do have specific standards you want to go through, and you coach towards, this is what we need to do. Keep them focused, coach them, congratulate them for their success, and coach them how you can become better. Even the mistakes, you don't need to blame them. Just teach them how we can do it better. Listen to their pain points. Listen to what they're missing. Bring it back to us, or deliver on it on the ground. I think this is where we're going to be able to standardize, which it is a long journey for us. And thankfully, our training and quality team, they're doing a great job there. They're pushing let's say my team to deliver on that. But I think hopefully that program is launching this year. I think it's launching next month.
Great.
So hopefully we're going to get pretty good outputs from it.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It's interesting too, really, because I've asked about consistency of customer service there. Instead of talking about outputs, you've quite rightfully talked about inputs and what you're putting in with your employees and coaching. And it's very much a people thing, right? I guess on the operations side of things, when you're operating at this scale, I'd be interested to know what steps that you've taken to optimize and streamline your workflows and operational processes to ensure that you're able to operate efficiently at this sort of scale.
I think it's the same around the previous questions. There's no one secret answer.
Mm-hmm.
Because you will try to fix this process or this workflow, another one is going to come. And actually, this week I've been here in the UK discussing with the team I'm part of, the global team, is actually trying to understand the pain points and what we need to standardize and streamline, and how can we work out process with our teams. That's an ongoing discussion. I don't think that had changed for years, because I said every single thing you're fixing, there's another thing you need to fix coming later. The more things you're getting from the stakeholders, the more responsibilities, the more duties, the more things you're going to streamline. So I think how we're approaching it now, I think because the last years we were trying to sometimes invent the wheel from the beginning. Sometimes we're picking, okay, let's pick the most complex process or workflow.
Interesting.
To solve it, but actually it's never been solved, because that complex, you're going to see results in 1 or 2 years. So I think what we've done recently, and that's what we've been discussing this week, is we asked teams what actually you feel it's broken. We've got all of those messages back up, and we broke those into a couple of pillars. What's within our control? We as a customer service and sales, we don't need anyone. We don't need to talk to stakeholders. We don't need to talk to anyone in the business. So within our control, what we can actually influence easily. So I can't talk to the business, but you can easily influence them. I've got the evidence, the information, so we can actually sign it off and change. And what is totally out of our control. And we split it ourselves into, I would say, 2 teams globally within our team. One team is going to focus on the quick wins, that's 100% within our control. Another team is going to look into what we can influence.
Right.
And again, influence with a clear set of timeline. And again, I'm pushing it back to investment in our teams. Because again, the quicker you can fix things and communicate it and talk to the team about it, the better output you're going to see. The things that's going to take longer from you, it's not going to take you anywhere, and actually it's going to impact the moral of the teams on the ground. So I think I'm keen more on people, investment for people, and getting thoughts from bottom up rather than top down.
So I think that's about all we have time for today. I know that you're joining us in Amsterdam this October, our flagship event. Yes, with our colleagues Alina and Valeria too. So that's fantastic. But yeah, for now, shukran. We're very grateful that you've been able to join us today for this episode. And until next time, masalama.
Thanks, Kira, and I hope that it's been an interesting session for everyone. And hopefully we'll see you and everyone else in Amsterdam.
Thanks,
soon.
Mohamed.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining for this episode of In Conversation with CCW Europe. If you'd like to learn more about our upcoming episodes, then please click the link in the bio.